In this video, I'm going to talk about blood type and some things related to blood type. We also spend pretty much time in lab talking about blood type and actually how do you do blood typing and who can you donate to and all. So there's more conversation in lab materials related to this. So by the time you're done both this and lab, you should be pretty good at this. So we've all heard of blood transfusions, and we know that you can receive blood from another person. That can be done safely if you have compatible blood types. If you don't have compatible blood types, adding someone's blood to another person may actually cause your blood to clot, to clump, and it could be deadly. It could be very serious. So how is your blood type? How do you know your blood type, or what causes you to have different blood types? So it turns out that our red blood cells have proteins on the surface, and just like all our cells have unique proteins. But depending on your genetic background, you might have A proteins on the surface. Now, what we use the term antigen for a protein that's unique to a cell. Okay, so bacteria have unique antigens. That's how our body recognizes that they're different than our own cell. And so even our own cells have antigens on the surface. So there's a few different kinds of antigens on, or proteins on, blood cells. They can be A antigens. They can be B antigens, B proteins. And notice the A and the B look a little bit different. As when you're looking at blood type, you can have blood cells with A and B antigens. Or you can have blood cells with neither A nor B. And so we call the blood cells with type A antigens, we call them type A blood. The blood with type B antigens, we call it type B blood. The ones that have both A and B antigens, we call type AB blood. And the one with neither A nor B, we call it type O. O kind of meaning like zero, none. Okay. The other thing that's happening, remember, if you have type A antigens on your blood, you don't want to make antibodies against that because you'd be attacking your own body. But you can make antibodies against B antigens because you don't make B antigens. If you have type B blood, you can make antibodies against A antigens because you don't have A. A's foreign to you. If you have type AB blood, you can make antibodies to fight off, oh, wait, if you made A antibodies, you'd attack your own cells. If you made B antibodies, you'd attack your own cells. So you don't make antibodies against A or B. And then finally, if you have type O blood with no antigens on the surface, you can make antibodies against A's because A's are foreign to you, and you can make antibodies against B's because B's are foreign to you. Okay. So it's going on a little bit there. So what we know is that as long as you only receive proteins that you have already, as long as you receive antigens that you have already, you won't fight off the blood. So the idea is, if you have type A blood and you give that person type A blood, let's go back to this picture. I think it'd be easier to look at. If you have type A blood and you have A antigens and you give this person type A blood, you didn't give them anything new. So that will be compatible. If I give my type A person, if I give them type B blood, I transfuse type B blood into their body. The B's are foreign, and this type A person is able to make antibodies against them. So these antibodies can attack the new B blood and cause clumping, agglutination, and that, like I said, can be dangerous and possibly deadly. So I can only give a person the type, I can only give them the proteins they already have. I can't give them a new protein. So type A person cannot receive a type B blood. Here's a type AB blood. Can I give the AB blood to my A person? And hopefully you're thinking no, because even though they already have A's, B's are still foreign. So I cannot donate AB blood to an A person. Let's look at it the other way. What about my AB person? Can I give them B blood? Yeah, because they already have B proteins, right? They're not making antibodies against it. So B can be transfused into an AB person. So the rule when you're doing blood transfusions is you can't give somebody something they don't already have. You can't give somebody something new. So here, this looks a little bit different. Oh, so I have a type O blood. But O doesn't mean they have O proteins. It means they have no proteins. So can I give my O blood to my AB person? Yeah, because I'm not giving them any new proteins. Can I give my AB blood to my O protein person? No, because A is new to them and B is new to them. So they'll make antibodies against A and B and cause that blood to clot. It's a little bit tricky, and I think I have some things in lab to get you practicing this. But the bottom line is you can't donate blood to somebody, you can't give somebody a protein they don't already have. So what we do is we call type O blood the universal donor. You can give O to anybody because you're never going to give them a new protein. You can give O to ABs, you can give O to Bs, and you can give O to As. AB blood is the universal recipient because they can receive every kind of blood. I can give them O, I can give them B, I can give them A, because they have all those proteins already. So now here's something to muddy the water a little bit. There's another protein, and it's called RH. Now, some things you'll read, they'll call RHD. So you might see that instead of RH. So blood with RH proteins on it we say that they're positive. They're RH positive. So if you have A proteins on your blood and RH proteins, we will say you have A positive blood. If you only have A proteins, we'll say you have A negative. So the positive and the negative you hear in blood type has to do with whether you have RH or not. So the blood that has the most different proteins on it, think about what it would be. It would be AB positive. An AB positive has A proteins, B proteins, and RH proteins. An O negative has no proteins, no A, no B, no RH, so they're called O negative. So that brings into this thing that we call hemolytic disease of the newborn. Here it is, hemolytic disease of the newborn. So for those of you that have babies, and if you are RH negative, you probably know about this. Because what can happen is if you are an RH negative mom and you are pregnant with an RH positive baby, that baby's blood can cause your blood to make antibodies against the RH proteins. And the time when your baby's blood will mix with the mother's blood is usually during birth. So at the time of birth, a little bit of the baby's blood might mix with the mother's blood. And the RH positive baby will cause the mom to make anti-RH antibodies. But that's not a big deal because the baby's being born and those antibodies aren't going to be made fast enough to affect that baby. But when you get pregnant again with another baby that's RH positive, Now the mom has antibodies against Rh, and in that developing fetus, they can actually cause the mom's blood to try to fight off that developing baby. And that can actually cause anemia in the baby, and it can cause death. It can cause miscarriage. So it can be a pretty serious condition. So it only happens, though, when the mom's Rh negative and the baby's Rh positive. Okay? So what happens is when that Rh negative mom is pregnant and about to deliver, they're going to give that mom a shot of something called Rhogam. And what Rhogam is, it's an antibody against an antibody. It's a molecule that's going to neutralize the mother's it's going to prevent the mom from making those Rh antibodies, anti-Rh antibodies. So if the mom doesn't make anti-Rh antibodies, they're not going to have antibodies that can affect the next baby. So it's a way to prevent hemolytic disease of the newborn. It only happens in Rh negative moms and Rh positive babies. Okay. The last thing I'm going to talk about with this whole blood section is just a little bit about homeostasis. And actually, I'm not going to talk about it very much at all. But what I wanted to emphasize is the cardiovascular system is critical for the function of all the other, or almost, I guess they don't have reproductive system on here. But it's important for that too. But more obviously, it's important for all the other organ systems. And so just look over this and kind of try to think of like, why do we need the cardiovascular system to keep the digestive system working? Why do we need the cardiovascular system to allow the endocrine system to work? Some of these you should be able to figure out, but read these over and see if you can figure all that out. How do these different organ systems interface with each other? I'm going to call it an end there.